Hey guys, here's a plain shaded modeling from your favorite 3D modeling software. And here it is 30 seconds later with material, light and atmosphere straight from an AI image model. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this and much more. First, I thought about walking you through all the AI platforms I tested for architects, but the list is huge and the space moves so fast that you would forget most of those names by the end of the video anyway. So here's the deal. In the description and the pinned comment, I will leave you a proper shopping list of all the tools I tried. All the usual tools that take sketches, CAD drawings, 3D screenshots or rough renders and turn them into nicer visuals in the browser. Some are plugins, some do white render to photoreal, some focus more on style or editing. That is homework for later with a coffee. I spent a lot of time testing those platforms and watching what people actually use in real projects. I kept coming back to the same conclusion. For most visualization tasks right now, the best starting point is not a specific website, this is a specific image model. And that is Gemini's image model that people nickname Nano Banana, and especially the Nano Banana Pro version. I use Nano Banana Pro as my main engine for three things: turning maskings or sketches into images, transferring style from references and pushing images towards more diagrammatic or illustrative looks. And on top of that, I paired with Generative Fill in a 2D editor like Photoshop or Affinity. So I still have full control over layers and precise edits. That combo has beaten every all-in-one architecture platform I tried. Around that core, I only add a few specialists. For instance, Midjourney, when there is no model yet and I just need a mood. Stable Diffusion XL or FLUX, when everything has to run on local hardware. Then we have Luma, Google Flow or Runway, when the stills need to move, like for motion. And tools like Weavy or Xfigura, if you want to build small node-based pipelines instead of doing each step by hand. So think of this as a tour through your workflow. You start with the early concept stage, then move through masking, renders, diagrams, privacy constraints, and finally motion. In each step, the question is simple. What are you trying to achieve, and what is the smallest AI setup that helps you do exactly that? For every stage, I will show you one concrete pain you probably recognize and how I would solve it today with these models and tools. One view, one prompt, one result. You can react to it in the design process. And if you want to go deeper after this video, this is exactly the kind of thing we teach on Think Parametric. How to plug these models into your real workflows in Rhino and Grasshopper, and much more. Let's start with the very beginning of a project. You have a site, you have a brief, maybe a few notes from a client call, but no real 3D model yet. Maybe there's a sketchbook, a couple of scribbles, or a sad little box on a screen you're not very proud of. And this is usually the moment where you open up Pinterest, scroll for an hour, and end up with a folder full of gorgeous but random projects that are not really about their site, their climate, or their brief. Here, I want you to flip the habit. Do not use AI as a render engine yet. Use it as a mood engine. At this stage, you're not asking, what does the building look like exactly? You're asking, what could this feel like in terms of light, material, and atmosphere? Heavy concrete versus soft timber, a misty forest versus bright plaza, calm interior versus a busy street, things like that. For this early stage, I still recommend Midjourney. It's very good at creating coherent atmospheres from a short text. You type something like small neighborhood library, soft evening light, warm timber interior, concrete exterior, surrounded by tall trees, minimalist, calm, and it gives you a whole family of images that clearly belong together. You can add style images from architects or photographers you like, and you can tell it in this style, so you're not scrolling random Pinterest boards anymore. I'm going to show you now the Midjourney page, which is the Midjourney moodboards page. And this is the kind of thing you can aim for in your own projects. But for this example in this video, I'm going to use another tool, which I'm going to show you in a second. So the moodboards, this is a page where Midjourney explains how you can use moodboards, how you can set them on, the type of prompts you can use, how to structure your prompts. But what I really like is the style reference, where you can apply a certain style to the set of images. And the cool thing is that no matter what prompt you give, Midjourney will make sure that it will always be outputted in that same style that you specify, right? So if you have Midjourney, definitely use this to create mood boards. but I'm going to use another tool which is free. It's from Google and it's called Google's Mixboard, and it's from Google Labs. I'm going to use it because it is built exactly for prompt-based mood boards, and it's a bit more dynamic, I think, than Midjourney. So let's take a look at that. And this is the page, so it's mixboard.google.com. You can also just Google it and just type in Mixboard Google and you can enter there. So let's start a new project, and we start from nothing, and we're going to drop in a simple brief. So in this case, I'm going to pass in a prompt that I prepared. So we're going to create some ideas, let's say for an interior space, right? So in the bottom, I'm going to pass that prompt. So the idea is that I'm just going to tell it what I want. So here I'm telling it, hey, create me a mood board for an interior space living room. It needs to be spacious, open. Then the style, which for this example, I'm going to choose an industrial style, some exposed brick, metal fixtures, raw materials, raw concrete, things like that. So let's see what it's going to generate for us. So as you can see, Mixboard generates a full board of images around that idea, right? So the cool thing is that, as we're going to see, we can tweak the text. We can swap a few images, and in a few minutes, we'll have a clear mood board that fits this project. So let's take a look. What you can do is you can zoom into an image and say, well, for instance, this image, double click, it will open up bigger. You can annotate it even. You can even say, well, I don't like this one, so I can regenerate this image, or I can delete it, things like that. The cool thing is that you can even do annotation. So let's say I don't want this one, so I'm going to delete this one. It doesn't really fit. I'm going to leave this one because I like it. Concrete is fine. Exposed bricks too. And let's say you have all your image that you want. Let's say, well, this one, let's regenerate it. Let's try another one, because this one doesn't really show our intention that well. I'd created like a similar one. Well, we could just delete this one too. But let's say you can add more images if you want to. You can say like, hey, generate me more exposed brick or something. Like you can create here all the images you want to use. And the cool thing is that if you have a set of images, you can say to the image like, hey, generate a mock-up living room using these images as inspiration. So now what it did is that it created, well, I tried at least to, use all the inspiration from these images. So the sofa, this metal cabinet, I put it in there, right? It put the lights, I think. Yeah, this light, put it here, right? It combined it basically in one big image, right? So, and the cool thing is you can even adjust this even further. You could say, well, I don't like the floor. I want the floor to be, let's say, I don't know, let's say a wooden floor. So you can say, change the floor to use dark wood. I phrased it a bit crude, but let's see if it works. Because that's the thing, it's still in experimental phase. So keep that in mind. Sometimes it will just crap out. But luckily it didn't do this in this case. So let me just scale this one a little bit smaller. So as you can see now, it changed the floor to be wood, actually pretty sweet. And the cool thing is, last thing I'm going to show you before we move on to the next scenario. If you double click on it, it will open a editor. And here on the side, you can annotate it. So let's say here, and I can put some text even, and I can say, let's put a chair, lounge chair, something like that. And then you click save. I can say, put a similar style lounge chair in the, annotated area. I'm really bad at spelling. Annotated. Okay, other. So let's see if it did it, because sometimes it just does whatever. I'm curious. So let me move this one to the side. So this is the edited result. Cool. Well, as you can see here now, it put a lounge chair here, right? So This way you can really quickly start creating your mood board. You can even already create a space, like a mock-up space with all your elements in it, And if you're done, you can click here share, and you can share your mood board with anyone with a public link. So you can even send it directly to the client, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. These are the elements, the atmosphere, the lighting, the materials, the emotions I want to evoke. And that's it. In the end, that's all we want at this stage, right? So trade the random Pinterest soup for a small focused set of images that feel like they belong to your project. So when you open up your 3D software, you're not staring at an empty grid, you're already aiming at a specific world. Now imagine you're a step further in your project. You actually have a 3D massing. Boxes, terraces, openings, things like that. It reads as a building, but visually it still looks like a white foam model. You have a review later today and you need something that feels like a real lit building, not just a screenshot of a couple of colored boxes. This is the first moment where geometry really matters. The question here is very specific. How do I turn this shaded massing into believable, photorealistic images quickly, without building a full traditional rendering pipeline, and without faking the design? I want the AI to touch materials, light and atmosphere, while the floor counts, proportions and openings stay exactly as in my model. Here, I switch to Nano Banana Pro as the main engine. The workflow is straightforward. You frame a clean view in your favorite 3D modeling software, hide all the distracting stuff, and grab a simple viewport capture of the massing. Then, you feed that image into Nano Banana Pro with a very explicit instruction. Keep the geometry, keep the camera, do not add any floors or change the composition, only change materials, lighting and atmosphere. You describe the facade language, the tone of the glass, the time of day, and let it give you a handful of options. What makes Nano Banana Pro so useful here is that it is very good at respecting that structure when you are clear in your prompt. If you overlay the shaded massing and the generated image, the balcony depths and the window positions still line up. You get something that looks like a proper image for a review, but it is still anchored to your 3D model, your geometry and your square meters, not a made-up building. Now, unfortunately, it's not completely free. You have to add your payment details first. In return, Google gives you a big trial, 3 months or $300 of usage, whichever runs out first. After that, you only start paying if you manually choose a paid plan. There's no automatic upgrade or sneaky subscriptions, things like that. Now, to use it, just sign in with your normal Google account. On Google AI Studio, you create an API key there, then enable billing for that project. And that key is what you paste into Rhino, Grasshopper, Python, or whatever tool you're going to use, as we'll see in a second, to talk to Nano Banana Pro. So let's take a look at a small example. So I've set up a quick model here, as you can see on the side, with a quick massing. Please don't judge me for the shitty design. It's just a quick office building with some geometric interesting things happening. And I've also set up a viewport as a capture, which is my version 6. So this is a viewport that I want to use to create a quick photorealistic image from. So what I did is that I went here, capture viewport to file, it saves this image, and then I use this image on the Nano Banana in the Google AI Studio using the Nano Banana Pro model, right? So I've already done this to save us some time. So this is the image, as you can see here. And this is the prompt that I used. So very simple, no shenanigans, just a simple image. And the prompt, this is where you do have to be a bit specific in how you structure the prompt, like the things you're going to put in there. But it's mainly a quick description what the image is. It just helps the model interpret the image a bit better if you specify like, hey, this image is a diagrammatic view from the fourth terrace, a view from a terrace from the fourth floor of an office building. And specifying the location also helps with dressing up the scene, as we'll see in a second. So here I just specify the center of Chicago. And then after that, because this is a shaded view of Rhino, the good thing is that my layers have a specific color, a bright color. So it helps me a little bit to explain to the model like, hey, change the red regions, which are the floors, changed those to use a natural stone material, dress it up. People are walking on there, relaxing on the terraces, taking a break from work. Then the green regions, I tell it like, hey, those are windows, change them to be floor to ceiling, black aluminum frames, modern. And behind them is, an open office space, people working, things like that. And the last thing are the purple regions, which are the railings. And I tell it to be like, hey, I want these railings to be completely 100% transparent, crystal glass, and with a metal cap on the top. And then, of course, the last thing you have to do also is, besides your subject, which is usually your building or your model that you designed, your geometry, you also have to describe the surroundings. So we already told it the location, but now a bit more specific. The surroundings are a busy street with lots of activity, pedestrians walking by, cars in traffic, bicycles parked in front of the building. And then finally, when you've described the surroundings, you describe the atmosphere and the lighting, which is basically the sunlight, how light interacts with your design. So I just told it like, hey, it's late afternoon, the sun is setting, soft light, warm atmosphere, So that's the whole prompt. I ran it, and this is the result. And as you can see, it really nicely respected actually all of the things I described it, right? So first of all, the natural stone for the floor, I did it really nice on all the levels. I did the railing also perfect, completely transparent with the metal cap that I told it to. The windows, floor to ceiling as well, with a black aluminum frame, exactly as I described as well. It even respected the size of the windows that I quickly modeled in Rhino, the 3D modeling software as well. And behind it, of course, the open floor plan that I told it to have. I also told it like, hey, on the terraces, people are relaxing, taking a break from work. And as you can see, there's some people here chilling as well with their coffee. And of course, the surroundings as well, like the center of Chicago. If you are from Chicago, but you're going to probably recognize some of these buildings, because even that, Nano Banana does that also really, really well, respecting the location that you provided. If it's a specific city, with 30 seconds, like I told all the way in the intro, you can get already like a really professional render. Because here actually I have nothing to add. Even the bicycles that I said, hey, put some bicycles in front of the building, it even put that there. So it really respects what you put there. And I really like that it also respects the geometry. Before I continue, let me quickly also show you how to use Nano Banana, because it's not exactly free. Like I mentioned, you have to put your API key. It's very simple. When you log in with your Google account, there's a button here that says Get API Key. You click it. Usually it says here free. And to activate the use of Nano Banana Pro, you have to set up billing. If you've done that, you can use Nano Banana Pro, which is located here. Here are all the models that you can use. Nano Banana is free. You don't have to set up an API key. But for Nano Banana Pro, you do have to do that. And then you have to click this button here. Your list of API keys will appear, and just select the one where you've set up your billing information. That way you can use Nano Banana Pro. The cool thing is that, like I mentioned, you have 3 months to try it out, or $300, but $300 US, it's so much. I've generated so many images and I've only used maybe like $8 or something like that. Like it's really, really little. Unless you start generating videos. I think videos, they cost a bit more, but for images, you have basically unlimited images to try out. And like I said, there's no sneaky things that at some point it will automatically turn into a subscription. That's not the case. Google, I think in the end, it will ask you like, hey, do you want to continue with a subscription plan? So that's very nice. So the pain we are solving in this stage is clear, as you've seen. You already did the work of modeling the massing. You do not want to lose an entire day in a render engine just to get something presentable. And Nano Banana Pro gives you that good enough to discuss this afternoon image from a single screenshot and a well-written prompt, right? You can show this image to a client, go over it like, hey, this is the feel I want to have with my office building, people on a terrace overlooking the city. You can quickly discuss ideas, materials. It will really speed up your workflow here, right? While your 3D model also quietly stays in charge of your design. So now that we are a bit further in the design process, you already have a render. Maybe it's a clay render with some decent lighting. Maybe it's a full textured image that is 80% there. and someone looks at it and says, this is great, but can we just quickly change the sky or make the brick darker or add some trees or, maybe try a night version as well. And that just quickly, just quickly, usually means reopening the 3D scene and re-rendering everything. And this is the stage where I split the problem in two. You have small, precise edits on one side, and you have bigger, new version of the same hue, changes on the other. Now, for the precise, granular edits, Photoshop is still king. It works very well, especially the Generative Fill capabilities it has recently added. But a lot of people are getting tired of Adobe's subscription and cancellation practices lately, so I also want to point out that there's another program you can use called Affinity. Affinity Photo gives you a full Photoshop-style environment without locking you into the same subscription type structure. The app itself is free to use, and if you want generative fill type features, you can connect it to Canva's AI through Canva Pro subscription, which is generally more affordable and flexible. The workflow is the same. Your render becomes a layered canvas. You mask the area you want to change, describe the edit, and let the AI do the heavy lifting while you stay in control of layers and adjustments. So let's take a look at an example workflow. So I've opened again my Google AI Studio because first we're going to take a look into those big changes, let's say. So I'm going to use the same image as we've been using before. And this is the output. So I just, underneath it directly, I just say, you know what? Why don't we try to change the floor? Because right now, as you can see in the image, let me make it a bit bigger. The floor is natural stone. But let's say, instead of stone, we want to try some more options, present it to the client, make a presentation, or maybe even present it to the internal team. Let's see how it looks like, with another material, right? So instead of wood, here in the prompt, I said, you know what, change those tiles to be a dark wooden floor, right? And this is the result. So as you can see, it almost perfectly applied that other material instead of the natural stone. Right now we have wood. So literally in 10 seconds, boom, you have this other option you can discuss with the team, discuss with the client, things like that, right? Now, let's look at another thing Nano Banana Pro is very good at, talking about those big changes. So let's say we want to change the weather, right? So instead of it being the late sunny afternoon that I put in the prompt, let's change it to be rain, like it's pouring rain, no? So this is the prompt I put it, change the weather to be pouring rain, and also change the behavior of the people to reflect, the weather, obviously. And this is the result again. So I kept the wooden floor, but as you can see, the environment completely changed, right? The scene. It even added the reflection in the wooden floor from the rain. You see right now there's no people on the terraces because, it's raining. Also, the people on the street, as you can see right now, they're wearing jackets and umbrellas. So that's another thing Nano Banana Pro does really, really well. It's just like, hey, changes from sunny to rain, boom, 1 second, done, right? And the last example I want to show you guys is changing the lighting. So instead of daytime, let's see if we can change it to nighttime as well. For this, I uploaded the original image again, so with the natural stone. So this image here. And here is the prompt, right? So I said, hey, please change the time of day to night. The light's mainly coming from the office and the surrounding buildings. Also adjust the behavior of the people to reflect the time of day. And this is what it did. So same thing as well. It completely changed the lighting and the reflection. And it also added like some small minor details that I really like is the street lights here that all of a sudden are turned on. The lighting from the railings, from the office as well, in the interior. But also this small detail here, it's really cool that the people that were lounging there, let me show you the previous image just as a comparison. So here they're just having a coffee, right? But in the nighttime, it added like a small candle there because of course it's nighttime, so you need a little bit of light. So like those kind of small details, I think Nano Banana Pro does it really well. Like it thinks with you. Now, let's also take a look for the finer, those finer edits I was talking about. And for those, I switch to Photoshop or Affinity. So we start with this base shot, and it already looks great. It's the same shot as we've been using all along. So we have nice evening light, people working inside, terraces stepping down to the street. But maybe we want to tweak the story a little bit, right? You want to do some granular edits. And here we can use the Generative Fill capabilities to clean up the image a little bit, right? So here I can make a loose selection around the people I don't like and simply ask it, hey, remove these people. And Photoshop fills in the paving and the background, as you can see. Now the terrace feels calmer and we have a little bit more space to work, right? So let's say I want to do another edit, right? So next, I add a few new people exactly where I want them. So I can draw a selection along the glass railing and type something like two people leaning on the railing, they're talking, casual clothing, and Photoshop generates a few options. I can pick the ones that fit the mood and try again if the pose looks a bit odd, right? And the nice thing is that they sit in the correct perspective and lighting, but I can still fine-tune things with the granular tools Photoshop excels in if I need to. So this is what I like doing these edits in Photoshop or Affinity rather than in a web platform. The AI does the heavy lifting, but I keep all the layers, masks, and the many adjustment tools these programs offer, right? Like web platforms can't compete with those. I can fade things in, I can repaint edges, change color and contrast. It feels like normal post-production, just with a very fast assistant helping you make the big moves. Technically, you can also do these things on a web platform like, for instance, Xfigura. What I like is that they offer a straightforward UI. You get a clear canvas with nodes and components, so your steps and options are a bit more structured. But in the end, the result is the same as calling Nano Banana directly through Google AI Studio. So to summarize, in this stage, I use Nano Banana Pro for the big shifts, like changing the atmosphere, the lighting, or swapping materials. And then I use Photoshop or Affinity for the precise work on top. Sometimes a photorealistic render isn't what you want at all. It looks finished but too definite. The client immediately starts talking about furniture and trees. They say things like, I do not like that sofa, or can we change the tree, or is that the final brick color? And you want to talk about bigger things, the overall shape, how the rooms connect, where the doors and windows sit, how the terraces work, broad stuff like space and layout. Other times you have the opposite problem. You send a flat technical 2D floor plan and people just get lost. You see it in their eyes, right? For you, it is crystal clear. You see walls, doors, and circulation in one glance. But for most clients, it is a carpet of lines and symbols. They do not feel the scale. They cannot tell exactly what a wall is and what a window is. They do not see where the daylight comes from or how rooms connect. So instead of talking about the idea, you spent the whole meeting explaining, this line is a wall, this line is a door, this is the kitchen, things like that, right? So the problem is the same in both cases. The image style does not match the conversation you want to have. So let's take a look at these examples and let's see how an AI model can help us in these cases. Again, I've set up some examples in my Google AI Studio because again, we're going to use Nano Banana Pro to see how it can help us out in these cases. So let's first take a look at that 2D floor plan, the technical 2D floor plan example. So I've just uploaded a plan like that, like just a random plan that I found online, like a technical plan that you've seen a lot of times probably. So most of the times clients have a lot of trouble reading these things. So it's nice to kind of change this 2D technical plan in a more, in a more 3D top view, like diagrammatic top view. And the cool thing is that Nano Banana is also very good at doing those kind of style changes. So I just uploaded that image and I told the model like, hey, turn this top view or turn this 2D floor plan into a diagrammatic 3D top view, right? And the goal is to give the image a bit of depth. Just depth, just like those two sentences. And this is the result I got. And as you can see, it almost perfectly applied those changes, right? It changed the 2D into a 3D view. It even applied some shadow. It hatched the walls black or dark gray. It even applied a little bit of texture to the living areas, like a wooden floor and some tiles for the wet areas, like the bathrooms and things like that, some carpet for the bedrooms to separate those spaces. And it even added the text as well, like living room, kitchen, things like that. So it did everything almost perfect. Maybe you have to touch it up a little bit in Photoshop to do some fine edits, but you know, just transforming your 2D floor plan into something more readable, something more presentable you can use in presentations or for client meetings. Nano Banana is your friend, right? And let's directly also take a look in those other examples. If you want to transform the style from a photorealistic rendering to something else, because that's another scenario as we saw. So here I used our base image that we've been using all along, our terrace view or photorealistic terrace view, and I uploaded another image with it, which looks more diagrammatic. So let's say I want to have that diagrammatic style applied to my photorealistic image. And that's also doable in Nano Banana. So I just told it here, this is my prompt, change the style from the first image, which is the photorealistic image, and apply that style to the second image. And this is the result. And again, it almost did it perfectly. You could say like, well, the chairs, they have a different color. I just wanted to use monotone colors like grayscale. So there's no talk about, is this the final color of the brick or things like that? Like, no, I just want to talk about spaces, no? Like, how do you feel the spaces? Maybe the terraces are a bit too big, too small. I want to have a more common area here, but you can talk about the things you want to talk about instead of having the client talk about things that are not defined yet, right? And if you want to have something even more sketchy, instead of diagrammatic, we can also apply a style that's a bit more sketchy. It's the same thing. So I uploaded our base image again and another image with it, which is more like a sketch image, like a style that I like to use. And this, again, this can be any image, any style you want to use. I just use a sketch image, but it can be anything basically. And you just tell it like, hey, change the style from the first image, the photorealistic image, and apply the style from the second one, which is the sketch image, to it, right? And here we see the result. So again, it really applied almost perfectly that sketchy feel, that sketchy look to my photorealistic render. And this also conveys to the client like, hey, I'm still figuring stuff out. It's sketchy. This is what I had in mind. So you kind of change the conversation a little bit and you kind of steer it the way you want it to go, right? And I think Nano Banana is a very powerful tool to quickly allow you to generate these kind of visuals, for the client or for internal meetings as well. So the point of this stage is simple, as we've seen. You choose image style based on what you need to communicate. And I believe Nano Banana Pro is great for helping you lock the geometry and swap the visual language so your clients and stakeholders talk about the right things at the right time. So there's one more situation we need to talk about that is not about creativity at all. It is about constraints. Sometimes you're working on projects where you simply cannot send models, drawings, or renders to external cloud services. Government work, confidential master plans, nervous clients, or just a strict IT policy. Now, the question is simple. How do you get similar AI benefits while keeping all the data on your own machines? It is the same reason many offices still do their post-work in programs like Photoshop or Affinity on local machines instead of services in a browser, right? You kept the files inside your own environment, and you also get much more granular control for editing and post-production. In this case, I switch away from Nano Banana Pro and look at local models like Stable Diffusion XL and especially FLUX. FLUX has variants that work very well with depth maps and line work, so you can steer it with your own geometry and still get solid results. These models need strong hardware to run, either on a local workstation or a dedicated server, and you usually control them with a visual tool such as Comfy UI. Now, I want to be honest here. Setting this up is not plug and play. There's a real learning curve, and you need to install the models, keep drivers and dependencies happy, build and test your node graphs, and probably manage a shared machine or two. In most offices, this means at least one person has to own the system and take care of the technical side. So this scenario is really for those of you with strong privacy or NDA constraints, right? Now the payoff is that once it's running, designers can still have a press render from 3D experience, but under the hood everything stays inside your own network, on hardware you control. So you're fully independent of the whims of online platforms. And now for the last stage, motion. By this point, you already have still images you like, and maybe they came out of Nano Banana Pro, maybe from your normal renderer. You could stop here, but a short clip often does much more work than a folder of stills. A simple animation helps people feel the project. How you move along the facade, how the lobby opens up, how light shifts as you walk through a room. Clients, stakeholders, even city councils understand flow and space much faster when things move. In competitions, a clear 20-second clip, for instance, already makes your proposal feel more alive than a board of static images. And for developers or realtors, these clips are powerful sales and marketing pieces for projects that are not built yet. So the question here is, how do I get a simple, convincing motion out of the stills I already have, with as little extra work as possible? Now for that, I reach for a small set of video models. First, we have Luma's Dream Machine. And Luma's Dream Machine is great when you want to turn a single still into a short cinematic shot with depth and parallax. You get it in one image, describe the mood and a simple camera move, and it gives you back a clip that feels three-dimensional. Then we have Runway. And Runway plays a similar role, but is more of an all-round production tool. You can go from text to video or image to video, and it gives you enough control over motion and timing to build quick, presentable shots without touching a traditional animation setup. And then finally, there's Google Flow. Now, Google Flow is designed specifically for turning a sequence of stills into a smooth, coherent clip. You can take a small set of keyframes from your project, feed them into Flow, and let it interpolate between them in a way that feels much more intentional than just cross-fading in a video editor. Now, for this exercise, this is the tool I will use to show you some examples. We'll start from a few still views of the same project and let Flow stitch them into a short, fluid animation. This is some stills that I created using Nano Banana Pro, and those are stills that I've previously shown as well. I think this one is new, but it's also just a simple personal project I worked on that I turned into a realistic photo using a Nano Banana Pro, using one of the workflows in the previous part of this exercise. And these are the ones that you already are familiar with. So this is a terrace view from that project and like a zoomed out basically. So I use these 4 images or 5 images to create some video examples. Let's take a look at that. These are the video clips that I got using Google Flow. And as you can see, sometimes it's still mistakes are made where, traffic drives over the sidewalk, things like that. Or here you can see the side of the building is not quite accurate. But to create short clips, like 5-second clips, it works pretty well. And it respects the geometry really well. And the prompt is also very easy. I just wrote something like, hey, it's a corner office building. I use an aerial drone view camera style and slowly rotate around the building while the time of day changes as well. Something like that I used. And for this one, I used 2 frames because that's the nice thing about Google Flow. Why I like the tool a lot is that you can insert a beginning frame and an end frame, and Google Flow tries to stitch them together basically, knowing where to pan the camera from and to. So it's a bit more easy to explain because, like I mentioned, prompting videos, it's a bit more hard than prompting an image because you have to take into account not just the stills, but also how you have to describe the motion you want basically, and also how the surroundings should respond to that motion and things like that. So, but as you can see, just with, took me maybe, I don't know, half an hour to get these videos out, fine-tuning the prompt a little bit and things like that, you already can get really nice results, right? So, like I mentioned, the goal here is not a perfect CGI film. There's still a lot of flaws in those videos, but it is to add just enough motion so people can feel how the project behaves over time, without you building a full animation pipeline. These clips are usually very short, think 5 to 10 seconds, and that is on purpose. Video is also more fragile than still images. It is easier for the model to make weird mistakes from frame to frame, and it is harder to prompt because you're describing motion, timing, and mood all at once. So for anything substantial or anything that needs to be, competition level or presentation level accurate, you still want a professional video editor. But the good news is that these tools can save them a lot of time, because instead of crafting every frame, they're mostly just polishing and stitching together the best takes. So to wrap this up, we basically walked through your whole project timeline. We went from I have no model and only a feeling to I have a still image and I need motion. In each step, the question was the same. What is the pain here? And what is the smallest AI stack that actually fixes it without breaking your workflow? Most of the time, the stack was tiny. Midjourney when you just need mood, and Nano Banana Pro for almost everything once geometry exists. Masking to believable images, style transfer, diagrams, even plan to 3D top views. A 2D editor with Generative Fill like Photoshop or Affinity plus Canva for precise fixes. Local models like SDXL or FLUX when everything has to stay on your own hardware. And Luma, Runway or Flow when your stills needs to move. If you want to go beyond this one video and really bake these skills into your practice, that is what we do at Think Parametric. We teach the latest tools and workflows for architects taught by people who actually use them. There's a full masterclass on Midjourney, an exercise where we run Nano Banana directly inside Rhino and Grasshopper, and a big library on 3D modeling, BIM, and parametric design. So if you want to keep going with this, be sure to check out thinkparametric.com. Thanks.